Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. This is Nathan Daly and I'm your law enforcement translator, and I'm here to provide insight, you guys, on these difficult topics, these current event issues, especially those involving law enforcement. And with that being said, we have a great video to break down. It's body camera footage out of Iowa State. And listen, this is actually going to be very interesting. If you guys have not heard about the situation out of Iowa, a college student who was arrested for DUI, and apparently he wasn't drunk. He wasn't intoxicated. He blew perfect zeros across the board, but yet he was still arrested. So, there's a lot to dive into in reference to this. So we're going to talk about it. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. I would love to have you part of the channel, and also like and share this content. And let's get directly into this body camera footage. I'm going to give you my perspective as a 13-year law enforcement veteran. Is the officer is he in the right? Is he right or is he wrong? Was this an illegal arrest, or was the officer justified, or was he not justified? Is the victim Tayvin Galanakis, is he truly innocent? Did the officers overstep their boundaries? You guys, we're going to look into it. I'm going to give you my perspective, and I'm curious to know what you think. So let's dive into it. This incident happened, it looks like 8/28/22, and the student, the victim, Tayvin, ended up posting this on the social media, and he ended up getting a lot of support. So let's go ahead and check out the video and see what happened.
An Iowa teenager is suing his hometown after he says he was arrested for an OWI while he was completely sober.
When he accused me of being drunk, that's when I got really confident, because I knew it was going to go one way and it was going to go my way.
19-year-old Tayvin Galanakis is a freshman at Willian Penn University, where he's a wide receiver for the school's football team. But on the weekend of August 28th last year, he was about an hour north in his hometown of Newton, Iowa.
Yeah, so I was coming home from one of my friend's house. We were just watching some football, and I looked around, I think it was 11:30, if I can remember right. And I had a headlight out. So it was raining, it was cloudy and all of that, really dark. So I used my brights.
Galanakis says one of his headlights was out, so he put on his brights within city limits. That's when Newton police officer Nathan Winters pulled him over.
Hi there.
How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
Good.
My name's Officer Winters with the Newton Police Department. The reason I pulled you over is because you have your bright lights on.
Yeah, I have a headlight out, so I just keep my brights on.
Okay, well that's not legal.
Oh, is it?
No.
Yeah, I turn when a car comes by, I turn them off, but
All right, so we're already off to a bad start, right? The officer, now listen, it's true, right? It's in most states it's illegal to ride with your bright lights on, and then also to operate your vehicle with one of the equipment not working, right? So he's saying that, hey, one of my lights are out, they're not working, so I have my bright lights on so I can see better. Well, of course, oncoming traffic, you're blinding the other drivers. And so in most states, there's rules as to when you can cut the light on, how long you can have it on, and things of that nature, right? So, but the officer's response already tells me that this is going to be a problem. This right here is already telling me the officer has an ego issue. And so, we're going to see how this plays out.
Well, you didn't with me.
Oh, you weren't close enough though. You were a while back.
It has to be within 500 feet.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
And you're not supposed to have your brights on in the city limits.
My fault.
You got your license, registration, insurance with you?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, it pulled me over. So then once he pulled me over, he began to be really hostile. And I could tell by the way, right when he got to my window, just asking me if I had anything to drink right away. So it was just one of those things I was like, it's going to be like that. So, I try to keep my calm, keep my cool.
Where are you coming from?
Friend's house.
Okay. Anything to drink over there?
Nope.
I didn't hear what you said.
Is one of these? Need one of these right?
So I like how he immediately already identifies. He's like, all right, the officer already had a very, I guess you would say, unprofessional demeanor starting off. He already knew and recognized this was going to be an issue. As you see, the officers asking him immediately, have you had anything to drink? Which is not uncommon. But oftentimes, if you don't smell anything, you know, you never really have to ask anybody. I never really asked anyone. A lot of times, if someone was DUI, you could smell it. You know, majority of times you could smell it unless it was not something that was not alcohol related. And so he's asking the questions, which I think is normal to ask. But the question would be, did you have anything, any suspicion that made you believe that this person was DUI outside of him using his bright lights? So.
Right here. Yeah, I mean, that's a good start. That's the registration.
Body camera video shows Galanakis give Officer Winters his license, registration, and insurance information. After that, he's asked to get out of the vehicle.
All right, that'll work. I'm going to have you hop out with me, okay?
Cool. Car on or off?
You could probably leave the car off. Do me a favor, put your gum on your dash there.
Put my gum on my dash?
Yeah.
Officer Winters then asks Galanakis whether he has any weapons or drugs on him.
We're going to go back here, okay?
Cool.
You don't have anything on you? No bombs, guns, drugs?
No bombs or no drugs.
Okay, let's go back here.
After that, the officer leads Galanakis into the front seat of his squad car.
How much have you had to drink tonight?
None.
What do you mean none?
I had nothing to drink.
Okay. Why would your eyes be watery and bloodshot?
Do you want to blow me real quick?
I don't want to blow you.
Well, I told him that. I said, hey, blow me. And then he turned it into something sexual right after that. So at that point, I know who I'm talking to. You know, he's not really professional.
Galanakis tells Law and Crime Network.
Wow. That's interesting. You know, I think it's one thing, you know, he already told, the officer asked him twice already if he had anything to drink. He already said he didn't. And he's looking at the manifestation in his eyes, right? Saying, okay, well, your eyes are kind of watery, glossy, and things like that, and bloodshot, which could mean a lot of different things, right? So I think there's nothing wrong with him inquiring. But I think it's interesting how Tayvin pointed out the fact that when he said, hey, listen, do you want to blow me real quick? You know, referring to the breathalyzer. And he's saying that the officer, you know, took it in this sexual way and was like, nah, I don't want to blow you, you know, that type of thing. And so I like how he's already identifying the type of officer that he has, that has this encounter with, which says a lot, right? He's already identifying that this officer is, 1, unprofessional, 2, immature, and then 3, more than likely has an ego problem just by the way he was responding, answering questions, asking questions. Tayvin already has this whole thing mapped out. So shout out to him for already putting the pieces together. And I think he already recognized this is going to be a very long night for him, which is unfortunate.
He wanted to take a breathalyzer exam right away because he didn't have anything to drink.
You know, when he accused me of being drunk, that's when I got really confident because I knew it was going to go one way and it was going to go my way. So I confidently said, hey, let's take that breathalyzer test. And
on the body camera video, Galanakis can be heard repeatedly asking to take a breathalyzer test.
let's do the breath now. 2 for 2. And make sure. Blow me too, man. Give me a little blow.
I will.
Blow zeros.
I will here in a minute.
Let's blow real quick. Stop doing all these damn tests. Let's blow. Let's get to business.
But first, Officer Winters asks Galanakis to perform a series of field sobriety tests.
Can you see my finger clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I know the drill.
All right, so I want you to put your left foot on the line. Okay. Take your right foot, put it in front of your left foot with the heel of your right foot touching the toe of your left foot, just like this, okay?
But when Galanakis performs a walking test, Officer Winters can be heard saying he's not following directions.
Off one.
Send me when I get to 9. I guess, so how do I turn?
Take a series of small steps. Stops walking 13 steps. Improper turn. How many steps did I say to take?
Like 8 or 9?
I said 9. Why'd you take 14 and then 15?
I thought you were going to tell me when to turn.
I said to count your steps out loud.
And I try to read.
So here's the thing, you guys. I wasn't really a big fan of DUIs. The DUIs that I made on the road were very obvious DUIs. I didn't really go out there hunting for DUIs, but the ones I came across, I mean, they either had something to drink and they weren't 100% impaired or impaired enough for me to feel comfortable arresting them. So I would always say, hey, can you get someone to pick you up because you're a liability type of thing. And then there's the ones who either jumped the curb, hit something, hit a cat, ran into a building. You go up to the window, you can smell the alcohol, they're dazed, the eyes are glossy, the whole 9 yards. You have everything you need to prove impairment. I would take them to jail and arrest them. I made very obvious DUI cases. I made a couple DUI cases where a person where they've had drugs or narcotics in their system, which impaired their driving. And again, do the whole process. And this situation right here, a lot of people don't realize when it comes to DUI, you guys, something that's very, very interesting is that it's less about whether or not you can actually do the actual the exam within itself. It's more so about whether or not you can follow, you're coherent enough to follow instructions properly. So a lot of people say, okay, well, the balance thing, this, that, and the other. Well, there's always a way to actually defeat the DUI standardized exam. Well, what do? You could easily say, well, I couldn't do it because, I have an injured ankle, right? So there's two unique things about the DUI process, right? When it comes to investigating DUIs, a lot of people aren't really aware of this, but there's two components to it. One of the components is that it's a measurement of your cognitive abilities to actually retain information and follow instructions. The other part is whether or not you can actually physically do the exam within itself. But I would say the weight is greater on the aspect of you understanding and being able to be coherent enough to follow instructions. That's really what it's all about. Because when you're really intoxicated and your judgment is impaired, you don't follow instructions well. And then, of course, use the inability to physically stand up, walk in a straight line, and those things. And then you also look at the physical manifestations, right? The person's breath, their eyes, the nystagmus, right? The involuntary jerking of the eyes. You look at all these different things and you bring it together and say, okay, and the totality of all the evidence, the person can't follow instructions. They can barely stand up, they're wobbling. I have the odor of an alcoholic beverage. And then I also have all the manifestations within the eyes. You guys, when you put all those things together, then you have a strong DUI case. And then on top of that, you have the actual traffic violation that one would argue is a less safe act, right? A person's weaving, crossing over lanes, they jumped the curve, right? They fell asleep in traffic. You have these less safe acts is what we call it. And you couple those with all the other physical evidence that you have, you guys, and at the end of the day, what do you have? You have a very good DUI case. Now, in this type of situation, having I walked 5 more steps than you asked, things like that. That within itself is not as great. It's enough to extend the investigation, but I promise you it's not as solid as you might think. Now with this situation right here, it's the officer is now put in a position where he has to go through the whole entire steps. Well, what is the problem with these steps, you guys? The field sobriety examination, we went away from calling it a test and saying that we're actually examining these manifestations. Now, the problem with the examination is that, listen, if you have an injured ankle, guess what? You can't accurately do the test, right? If you suffer from maybe say you have headaches at the moment, those things can interfere with you doing the test, right? Those things interfere with it when it's time to go to court and testify. Be like, hey, well, I'm a football player. I just got done working out at the gym. My body's not at 100%, and where did this come from, you guys? Well, a lot of attorneys, DUI attorneys would, ask officers, hey, can you demonstrate, the walk and turn? Can you demonstrate the one-legged stance? Can you demonstrate these things that you've required my client to do? And you know what would happen, you guys? Some of these officers were overweight, sloppy body. They get up and guess what? In court, they themselves couldn't do it. And then the attorney would say, officer, are you sober? Or are you intoxicated? Officer's like, no, I'm sober. I didn't drink. Are you sure? Well, you can't even do this test that you required my client to do. And you're sober and you're an officer. So you mean to tell me that this is how you're judging and examining people based on this standard, the standard that you yourself, who is completely sober, can't do? So you're sober and can't do it. My client is saying he's sober and he had a difficult time doing it. So what good is your test, officer? And this is where the problem lies. And so there's a way to defeat the DUI, right? And so in this situation, what we'll see is that, okay, well, the officer is taking notes and saying, well, he failed to do this. He wasn't following my instructions. I told you to do that. That within itself is not enough. And in my opinion, if you want to actually get a conviction, this is not enough within itself. You need the other things. And then to seal the deal, you need the breath, you need the blood, something that solidifies that this person was intoxicated or they had some type of a drug or narcotic in their system that was impairing their judgment, if that makes sense. So this is going to be interesting. Why? Because he blew all zeros.
We called directions like, hey, can you tell me again? And he wanted to state them clearly. So I tried my best, and he said I took one extra step. When on the 9-step test, he said I took one extra step. And I guess that's how he determined if I was drunk or high.
Galanakis admits he may have slipped up on the tests because he was nervous at the time.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe I slurred my words, a little bit because I was nervous. But yeah, that's just basic nerves, you know what I'm saying?
All right, during this, keep your arms down to your side. Why are you shaking so much?
It's freezing, man. Look at you got all these clothes on, and I got shorts on and it's raining. And you false accusing me, so of course I'm gonna be a little nervous. Yeah. You got nothing to say.
After this, Galanakis is asked to perform multiple other field sobriety tests.
Is that 6 inches to you? Yep.
How did I tell you to count?
1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. I honestly forgot how you told me, but I'm doing this pretty well.
So,
I do
just follow my finger with your eyes and your eyes only and don't move your head, okay?
Gotcha.
After telling Galanakis he's likely impaired,
You're showing some very strong signs of impairment.
Am I?
Officer Winters finally performs a breathalyzer test.
All right, what I want you to do is make a tight seal around this and blow outwards like you're blowing up a balloon, okay?
Cool.
All right.
You ready?
Yep. Okay, you can relax. So I'm going to read you Miranda, okay? Right now you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law.
While Officer Winters does not tell Galanakis the results of the test, the zeros can be seen on the body camera video. After that, he asks Galanakis when the last time he smoked weed was.
Well, this is interesting, right? He blew all zeros. You see it on the body camera. That's a normal practice. I would also, after I get someone to breathe into the intoxilizer, I would show the results on my body camera so it's documented. Then I would also show the driver, you guys. Now listen, you're not obligated to, as an officer, you're not obligated to show the results. And the results within itself is not enough. But unfortunately, a lot of people also don't realize this. The breathalyzer within itself is not an admissible piece of evidence. So, this is just a little bit more probable cause for us to say, okay, I think I have enough to get this, to make this arrest. And then also to read the driver imply consent, then take them down to the jail or wherever else they do to get their official results. And these results are state administered. So I won't say state administered, but they're actually state official equipment, right? So that's the more professional equipment. It's been serviced properly, and you can use that as evidence. So the field breathalyzer, which is one he took, is not admissible in court as far as being an accurate, 100% accurate reading. You have to then go and use and take the state administered test. And that's what implied consent does. It basically lets you know that you're being arrested for DUI. It lets you know what your rights are. It also allows you to choose and also allows us to ask, hey, do you mind submitting to a breathalyzer? Do you mind submitting into giving your blood? And depending on the type of case you're working, If they say no to the blood, then you have to get a search warrant from the judge, and the judge has to authorize it based on the evidence and that you've presented and the probable cause. The judge will give you a search warrant to draw that person's blood. So I've done these type of cases. I had to draw blood plenty of time on cases where there was definite impairment, but there was no odor of an alcoholic beverage. And so, the next thing was, this has to be something inside the body that's causing the impairment. A lot of times you can look at the eyes, depending on what drugs they may have taken. You see the pupils dilated or a real dot, like a pin dot is what we call it. And that right there lets you know that there's a chemical in the body that's causing them to be impaired. And so in this situation, he's gonna arrest him. What would I have done? You guys listen, I wouldn't have arrested him. You just don't have enough. Unless he truly believes that his impairment is due to some type of a drug, then he needs to get a blood sample drawn and tested in order to verify. If he doesn't do that, you guys, he has no case at all. He absolutely has no case. And so this will be interesting.
When's the last time you smoked weed?
I do not remember that.
Damn,
Tonight?
that's long response.
Oh,
Okay, well, I think it's tonight.
I've had no weed tonight. What? Why do you think it's tonight? Why do you think I smoke? I blew zeros, so now you're trying to think I smoke weed. That's what's going on. You can't do that, man. You really can't do
Absolutely, I can.
that. Is he allowed to do that?
Treat yourself to something spectacular. Get away to a place that's near, but
So I blow zeros and you smoke drugs, man.
Officer Winters again tells Galanakis he shows signs of being impaired.
I would, during my field sobriety, it is indicative of impairment. So let's be honest.
I'm being honest.
You smoked some weed at your friend's house?
No.
You hit a pin?
Nope.
Okay. Why is your field sobriety so poor?
What?
Why is your field sobriety so poor? And why are you so lethargic and slow moving and speaking with a slurred speech? And your eyes are watery and your eyes are bloodshot.
You know why they're watery? Probably because we're in rain right now, dumbass.
Galanakis tells the officer he
Calls
doesn't
him a
smoke
dumbass.
because he's
So at this point, obviously, Tayvin's upset. I don't blame him. He calls the officer a dumbass. Now, I mean, maybe I wouldn't have said that. But what's the issue here? Two things. The officer doesn't have a solid case at all for DUI. Because one, the officer was pressing the idea that it was alcohol. And then now that he blew all zeros, now he's like, oh, well, it has to be drugs. He's saying his speech is slurred. I haven't seen it. Maybe I need to see the full body camera. He did take a long time to respond to some marijuana, but marijuana, does it cause impairment? Yes. You'd have to smoke a lot. I mean, depending on what you smoke. I mean, I don't really know, but I've never worked a marijuana impairment case, but I've heard officers that have. But a lot of times it was a combination of marijuana and alcohol, but marijuana by itself, not so much. And so I don't think this officer he definitely doesn't have a solid case. And I don't believe he drew blood. But anyways, first of all, can the officer do this? DUI cases are funny because officers mess up DUI cases all the time. People go to jail for it. It's sad. It's unfortunate. They pay the money. They beat the case. They get the money back. But, the inconvenience, the inconvenience of it all. Is this a solid arrest? I'm telling you right now, if the officer did not draw blood, he's a fool. He's a fool. If you think it's drugs, you need to draw blood. And the results right then and there will tell you whether or not this person had any impairment. So then you'd have to release him if your evidence comes out to be not there.
He's on the college football team.
No weed. I don't smoke weed. I play college football. I told you that. We get tested every Friday.
Okay.
Don't smoke weed.
Today's Saturday.
Okay? It's 30. We say it's on your for 30 days. So if I did a test next week, I'd be off the football team.
Body camera video then shows Officer Winters speaking with another officer, saying Galanakis hesitated when answering about smoking.
I said, when's the last time you smoked weed? And he hesitated for a long period of time and said, I honestly can't remember.
When Officer Winters comes back out of his squad car, he places Galanakis under arrest.
Turn around, put your hands behind your back. Right now you're being placed under arrest for operating while intoxicated, okay?
I'm not intoxicated. Sir, I'm not intoxicated. I blew zeros.
So I ended up getting put in cuffs because I blew zeros, and I get taken back to the department. And at that point, you know, it's real life. It's not a prank.
Galanakis is taken to the Newton Police Department where he continues to maintain his sobriety.
Hey, sir. Hello. I didn't do anything wrong either. He made me blow. I blew zeros. Now he's accusing me of drugs.
A drug recognition expert later determined Galanakis was not intoxicated at the time he was pulled over. Galanakis requested the body camera video after his arrest and decided to post it to social media. Galanakis' edited body camera video now has more than 1 million views on YouTube.
When I posted the video to Facebook and all of that, the whole town was telling me about their similar, experiences and all that. And if I'm seeing all these comments about people saying they're dealing with the same thing from the same police department, we got a mess to clean up. And I feel like that's my job. With the exposure I got to clean up the mess. And I'm okay with doing that. Well, with the publicity my video got, I really hope, it upbrings the corruption in Newton and other towns that have this similar issues. But yeah, with the exposure of the video, I think it should just show them hey, we need to do something better. Because what they're doing is not right.
Galanakis tells Law and Crime Network he decided to pursue legal action after an outpouring of support online.
I really started getting...
I'm going to pause it there. This is actually a very, very interesting video within itself. What are my thoughts? Was this first of all, let's run it back. Was this a legitimate legal traffic stop? Yes, it was. If the law in Iowa states that there is restrictions on how you use your high beams, then yes, this is going to be a justified traffic stop. Did the officer have any, reason to pull him out and conduct a field sobriety? Based on, I don't know what other things the officer saw, but he didn't smell any alcohol. So it's almost like he was reaching. I think, in my personal opinion, it seems like the officer just assumed that because he was driving with his high beams that he had to have been intoxicated. So he pulls him out. He conducts a field sobriety exam on him. And essentially he fails the physical part from the standpoint of he did not follow instructions. He wasn't keeping up with the instructions. That within itself is not enough evidence to declare a person intoxicated or to declare that they are too impaired to drive. The second piece is that, he looked at the manifestation saying that his eyes were glossy and things like that. Again, that within itself is not enough to determine impairment. One of the issues that I have with this particular case, you guys, he doesn't have a moving violation. Right? A moving violation is one of the best violations to have when it comes to DUI, in my personal opinion. A DUI expert might say different, but a moving violation tells you that they've already committed a less safe act, right? In this situation, you pulled him over for his high beams. And so the question is, did you observe my client driving in a less safe act? Were they driving in a way that put someone else in danger, put themselves in danger? Did they do anything? Did they break any type of moving violation? And the answer is no. So, where did you go how did you get from here to DUI, right? That's the thing, how'd you get from here to DUI, to where you're pulling my client out and you're practicing your field sobriety skills on them, which are very subpar, in my personal opinion, because the officer struggled to articulate. He struggled to, explain what he was doing. So that's neither here nor there. So what's the next piece? The next piece is, he kept asking, did you drink? He said, no, I never drank before. But guess what? He obviously hasn't smelled any alcoholic beverage on him. So now you have the officer who's really just kind of reaching to a point of harassment, which is a problem, right? Luckily, Tayvin was very, very patient. He was also very cooperative under the circumstances. And so what's the other issue that I have with this? I would say the officer, in my personal opinion, came off to be very immature, a little unprofessional. You could tell he was very sarcastic. It was very unnecessary, which is a problem, right? That's definitely a problem when you talk about when you're dealing with the public. So that's very, very unfortunate. I would also have to say, of course, it goes without saying, when he used the field breathalyzer, he blew all zeros immediately. The officer should have known. He probably should have backed down. The best case scenario would have probably to call someone else to come and get him, and say, hey, well, I don't feel comfortable with you driving because I feel like you're too impaired, or maybe you have something in your system. I can't prove it. And, as officers, we have to be okay saying that. And I think the problem with a lot of officers, their ego gets a hold of them, and they take things personal and they take it out on the citizens. In this situation, looks like he definitely took it out on the citizen. He didn't have enough evidence for a DUI arrest. And then once he realized he blew all zeros, then he started to now want to lean into the investigation of, this looks like this might be drugs in his system. And I would wonder whether he's qualified to make that determination. What he should have did, you guys, regardless if you think that someone has some type of narcotic or something in his system, even alcohol sometimes, blood. And I guarantee you the judge would not have given him a warrant for to draw blood. But if he were to draw blood, he would have known right away that there was no impairment according to Tayvin. So I think this was a bad investigation. It's a bad case. Did the officer have a legal justification to do the stop? Yes. Was there enough to make an arrest? I don't think so. So Tayvin is actually filing a lawsuit. Is he going to win? I believe the police department is going to settle. They're going to settle because this has gotten way too much attention and the officer looks horrible doing his job. I believe they're going to settle, and he's going to get paid. He's going to get paid. He's going to get a little something. He's going to get a little something. Was this a false arrest? One might argue that the officer, though uneducated in his ways of DUI, he was acting under the color of law, so he'll still be protected. Could he receive some type of disciplinary action? True, yes. Will he lose his job? Probably not, you guys. That's just kind of how the game goes. As officers, we lose DUI cases. I have never lost a DUI case, but I have allowed for the reduction of DUI into like a reckless, right? So we've downgraded charges. But have I ever lost a DUI case or DUI case ever thrown out? Absolutely not, you guys. When I made cases, I made solid ones when they're just not questionable. And so, anyways, that's my thoughts on this. Shout out to Tayvin. I think his closing statement in reference to wanting to be a champion of change and speaking out with all the foolishness going on. I don't know what all the issues are going on in Iowa, but I can only imagine, like a lot of the issues in a lot of police departments, when you have a few officers who are creating a bad rep for an entire department, and sometimes it could be the entire department. So shout out to him. That's definitely somebody I would love to interview and get his perspective and see what other ideas he thinks would be great for police reform. So anyways, you guys, that's my assessment of this situation. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And with that, good night. God bless.